Welcome back to ComiCulture. I'm your host, Kevin. Things have been pretty crazy today at the ComiCulture HQ, and they're about to get even crazier. That's because we are now joined by the coolest chorus fan around, the voice of Pan from Dragon Ball GT, Elise Baughman. Elise is also the host of her own interview talking show, Anime Adventures with Elise Baughman, where she sits down with some of the most prolific names in the anime industry. Hey, Elise, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, a couple of things before we get started. You pronounce your last name Baughman, but it's pronounced the same way as Bowman. And some of my family pronounces it Bachman, even though it's spelled the exact same way. So
do you have family with the same spelling?
Yeah, and they pronounce it Bachman. And
yeah, we have people that I know that say Bachman, and you hear Bauman, and you hear Bowman. It's a very confusing last name.
So if I flub it up, which I already have, I do apologize.
It's okay. Not many people get it right. So I'm gonna
read it. I'm gonna immediately think Bachman, but it's Bowman. And so secondly, when we were talking the other day, you mentioned how you're usually you're the one doing the interviewing rather than being the interviewee. So don't secretly critique me or anything.
Oh, okay, I'll try not to. I know, I'm used to doing the interviewing, yes, so it feels weird to be on the other side of it. But yeah, I'm letting you stay in charge. You're in control here.
Okay, so now that we've discussed the pleasantries, tell me a bit about your background and what led you to acting and then voice acting beyond that.
Oh, yeah. So I did not always know that I wanted to be an actor. I actually majored in accounting, of all things. I got my MBA. I was working in corporate America. But I was interested in acting and took an acting class and loved it. I was not doing a job that I loved. So long story short, I kind of asked myself, man, how can I do this? And so I'm one who asks a lot of questions. I started taking classes. My best friend from high school gave me an acting class as a gift. And I started pursuing it from there. So I actually started with on-camera work and then got into voice acting after that. And when I got into voice acting, believe it or not, Pan was the first voiceover job I booked. And the rest is history. I mean, this is the very short version of how I got into acting and voice acting. But I, of course, love Pan, love Dragon Ball GT, and it's for many reasons. And part of it is sentimental because it's how I really got started. It's how I did other anime voice work. It's how I did other voice work in general, like in the commercial and radio and TV world. So that's kind of the gist. That's how I got started.
So before you got into dubbing for anime, were you already a fan of the medium or even familiar with it?
I didn't know a lot about anime. I had been a huge fan of animation. I loved animation and had a ton of DVDs of animated films. And how I found out about anime, I was doing improv at the time because I was doing, like I said, on-camera work. I had gotten involved in improv. I was in a troupe. And what happened, I was at a dinner with some of my improv friends, one of them being Mike McFarland. And if you know the Dragon Ball world, you of course know that he's several characters in the Dragon Ball world, and he's a director, and he's still a director. And he was part of that dinner. And I heard them talking about doing anime. And I was, of course, fascinated since I had been interested and loved animation. And I kind of went, whoa, okay, what are you guys talking about? I want to learn more, and how do I audition? So Mike was actually the one who explained how to get an audition, and he's the one who got me the audition, and that's how I auditioned for Pan, and then got lucky and got, fortunate enough to book that character. So
you mentioned...
I didn't know a lot, but I fell in love with anime.
Yeah, anime is great. You had mentioned that you were in an improv group. I was looking at your resume last night, and Amish Monkeys is such a cool name.
Well, I did that for just such a short time because I lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for just a couple of months. So that was such a small part of my improv experience. Most of my improv is based on the groundlings training program. I did the Groundlings when I was in LA, but then most of my improv experience was here in Dallas. It was Lone Star Comedy Club, and one of the founding members of the Groundlings did a program very much like the Groundlings here in Dallas, where you go through 4 levels, you have to get promoted through each level, then you are part of a performing group, and so that's what I was doing. I was performing, doing improv when I heard about the anime.
So why do you think that anime resonates so well here in the States? Is it because it can touch on subjects that traditional American animation just can't do sometimes?
Wow, that is a good question. That's come up in several conversations lately. And I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
You know, for me...
Do you have a good answer for that? Yeah.
See, this is when she starts swinging around on me, folks. I told you it was going to happen. For me, it's just
I have to do it at least once.
There's some deep storylines, like, you just can't really see in American anime. I mean, you're starting to now. But just some really powerful stuff, and I think we weren't used to seeing it, and getting able to experience like a different perspective on certain things really helped.
Yeah, I think there's so many, like you said, storylines and characters that really resonate with people and resonate with people of all ages. And I heard a good answer the other day that it's a multi-generational thing too, where people who grew up with anime are now taking their kids and enjoying it with their kids. So I think there's so many things to connect with in the shows and movies. And there is something for everybody. That's the other thing that I think is great. There are so many great shows, so it's easy to find one that you connect with.
Yeah, I mean, we have shonen anime like Dragon Ball, Naruto, My Hero Academia, magical girl anime like Sailor Moon, and so many others. And like you said, there's just something for everybody. It's always like that classic hero's tale of good versus evil. And there's like that slice of life aspect. So something about anime just sticks, and I love it.
Absolutely.
So speaking of Dragon Ball, let's talk about Pan, granddaughter of the savior of the universe, protector of the innocent, Mr. Hercule Satan. And I guess also the granddaughter of that Neanderthal with the fancy features, Goku. Pan is unique in that she's technically the first female Saiyan we're ever introduced to in Dragon Ball.
I mean, I absolutely loved playing the character of Pan. It was amazing. I think she's so multifaceted. She's spunky. She's fun. She's tough. She's strong. She loves her family. So I thought it was amazing.
So Dragon Ball GT catches a lot of flack for a lot of dumb, unwarranted reasons, in my opinion. You know, it's not perfect, but every anime has its mistakes. I think it's just become the trend to quote-unquote hate on Dragon Ball GT, even if you've never seen it. I'm the first to admit it's had its issues, but at the core, there were some great plots.
Well, what's funny, I probably have a different perspective. Not just because I was part of GT and I love GT, but when people come talk to me, they love it. Like, everybody who comes to talk to me loves it. So I always hear the good stuff. And sure, you know, you can read online and hear the good and the bad, but in my little world, everybody loves it. Because if they don't, they're not going to come see me at conventions or come talk to me about what they hate. So I have probably a different perspective than most. And I feel like when people do say something, they'll go, oh, I don't know why it gets a bad rap, because I love it. So I always hear that version of it.
So one thing I think I've seen everyone agree on, whether they love or hate it, is that Pan is the silver lining in the series. I've talked to several girls who said Pan was the reason they got into anime, because they'd never seen a girl be at the forefront of the shonen genre before. Do you think it's important for shonen to start spotlighting more female protagonists, even though it's traditionally been typically a male-dominated genre?
Oh, I love that they spotlighted Pan, and I love when they spotlight girls, because I have had girls, and even young girls. I was just at a convention recently where a girl, I'm guessing she was 10 or so. I'm terrible at guessing ages, but she was 10 or so, and she said, oh, Pan is my favorite character, and it just shows me that I can be tough and go out there and get them, like, not meaning get people, but just take on the world. And it's been so inspiring. So I do think it's helpful for girls to see that they can be tough. But also, you know, Pan had sweet moments, and like I was saying earlier, she loves her family. So I do think it's a good example for girls to see that they can have all of those aspects of their personality. So yeah, sure.
So now that Pan has been introduced into Dragon Ball Super, there's definitely some great potential to be had. Should the opportunity arise again, would you jump at the chance to voice her in a series again?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I would absolutely love to voice Pan again. And I'm sitting over here with my fingers crossed that she does pop up, because, you know, you hear all of these rumors, and I really don't know. But yeah, if she pops up, I would absolutely jump at the chance to voice her.
Because we all know that Dragon Ball Super takes place between the Majin Buu saga and the end of Dragon Ball Z, and we're running out of time before we kind of not get to the end of Dragon Ball Z in the timeline. So she's going to have to come up at some point. It's unavoidable now.
Well, that would be a dream come true.
So come on, Akira Toriyama and Toyo Taro, let's get this thing done. Let's bring Pan back, and we can all move on from there.
Call them for me. Like, talk to them for
me. Let me do that right now with all my clout.
Yeah, speed dial, right?
Speed dial to Japan, get my translator on the line.
Yeah, just make that happen.
So, on that same note, are there any other characters in your back catalog that you'd be keen in reprising at some point?
Well, Benny, I love to. I had the opportunity recently to reprise a role from Fruits Basket, because I did Momiji's mother, which is now pronounced Momiji's mother. And so I got to reprise that role for the 2019 reboot. And of course, in the original version, I just did an American accent. I got to do a German accent for the reboot. So that was fun and very much a challenge as a voice actor. And so, of course, like, I just love voice acting. I love doing character roles like this. So anytime I get the opportunity to reprise a role, like you said, or to do a new character voice, I love it.
So let's move on to Anime Adventures. What was the genesis of you wanting to start your own interview talk series?
Well, it's kind of crazy. So I just started doing conventions recently. I know so many actors have done it forever. I did maybe 2 years ago when I was voicing Pan, but then really hadn't been doing them until about a year ago, literally like last November. And so when I did my first convention about a year ago, I was like, you know, I love interviewing people. That's when I lived in LA for a time. I was doing a lot of TV hosting and red carpet interviews, and I did a show that was called RV Adventures. So when I went to my first convention, I was like, I've got a camera, I've got a microphone, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So in a way, it was a bit on a whim. At the same time, what I thought would be really cool is I knew I was going to start doing conventions, and I would have a different perspective and different access to actors that maybe the fans wouldn't have heard before. And so I wanted the chance to interview actors from an actor perspective and give people insight into that. So it's turned into something that I absolutely love, and I have heard that people do enjoy hearing that perspective. And I think, just getting the interviews out there is kind of why I love what you're doing as well. Like, you've got this amazing platform and these great interviews, because I've listened to a lot of yours, and it's so cool what you're doing. So I think just any time that we can interview, whether it's anime actors or voice actors or actors in general in this Comic-Con and anime convention world, I think it's so cool. So I got really excited, and now, with Anime Adventures on the YouTube show, I try to get one interview out a week. So that was kind of how it started, and man, I'm so glad that I've done that, and I'm loving it, and I love hearing from people who are watching and what it means to them. And so many people have said, gosh, I love whatever character, but I never knew who voiced it. And now I get to see who voiced it. And now I get to hear from them and hear about their background or how they got into acting or whatever. So that's kind of the story on that. It's been really fun.
Well, thank you so much for saying that you appreciate my interviews. That just brought a huge smile to my face.
Oh, good.
Like we talked about the other day, I kind of fell into this, and I love it, and I can't see myself doing anything else now. And I've blown through most of your interviews in the last couple of days because you've gotten some major players onto the show. How do you go about deciding who you want to have be interviewed?
Gosh, there are so many people on my list I want to interview. What I have been doing is interviewing people when I get booked on a convention. Or there have also been some conventions, I'm lucky, I live in Dallas, and there are a lot of conventions in Dallas, so sometimes if I'm not a guest, I just crash the party and interview people. So far it's been that. Now, I have gotten some people to agree to in-town interviews. I just haven't had the time yet to do those. And then if you've seen the channel, you've noticed we have done some studio interviews. Like Joel McDonald, we interviewed him at Gearbox. And Marissa Lindsay, we interviewed her at Sound Cadence Studios. So as I have time and as other actors or directors have time, I would like to try to schedule more of those as well. But a convention's real easy because the actors are there, I can be there and get several interviews at one time.
Yeah, scheduling is always the hardest part for me. I mean, I have a couple interviews booked out in February and March. I'm just why can't we talk tomorrow? No, but
I know. Well, yeah. As you know, it's hard because my day job is acting. I do voice work and on camera, and Anime Adventures is such a passion project. But sometimes trying to schedule with other actors, and our schedules are so different, or directors who are directing shows. So it's one thing when people agree and go, absolutely, I'd love to do it, but it's another thing trying to schedule that. And I know you've obviously had the same experience.
Yeah, even if you love the same people I've been trying to get on ComiCulture, I think it's totally unfair that you already have a connection in the industry. There's no question attached to that.
Sorry.
I'm just being salty.
I'm so sorry.
Maybe you could put in a good word for me on some of these ones. I've tried to get a hold of them, and I haven't heard anything. Maybe they just hate me. I'm going to take it personally at some point. But
sometimes it's just hard.
Yeah.
To it's maybe they haven't seen it yet. I know when your email came through, it didn't get to me immediately, so it could be something like that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I have some hopes. But how far in advance do you prep your interviews? What's your process? Do you do a lot of research beforehand, even if you're pretty familiar with the person?
Well, it's a little bit of both. If I know in advance that I'm going to a con and I will get to interview, then I will prepare in advance, especially if I don't know the person or I'm not familiar with something that they do. But then sometimes it's been last minute that I find out I get to go to a con, especially if I'm not booked as a guest. And so it may literally be, okay, so tell me what some of your fan favorite characters are, and we'll just talk about them, and it's winging it. And that's when it comes in handy that I've done on-camera interviews in other parts of the entertainment industry. It just helps having that experience. And what's great is these are actors, so they're used to talking about their characters at conventions, and they're used to answering certain questions from fans. And so all of them have been amazing and can just do stuff on the fly. So, of course, in a perfect world, what I would love to do is know I'm interviewing 7 people at a convention. I would love to prepare ahead of time and have everything, because remember, I am an accountant. I like to plan. So I would love to have everything planned out, but that doesn't always happen. And then, there are sometimes at conventions where, let's say, one convention, 14 people had agreed to be interviewed, but then because of schedules and people left early, I got 7 interviews. So I didn't even get the ones that I thought I was going to get. So even if you plan, you may not get I don't always get the people that I think I'm going to get. So it's a lot of last minute, like it's craziness, basically. How do you prepare? I'd love to know how you prepare.
Well, first off, it's funny that you mentioned that you're in accounting. I was also a business major, so preparing is like my go-to thing. Yeah. Like I said, I fell into this not planning to be in broadcast. I thought I was going to be like a social media marketing guru type person, and when I do...
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
When I prep for my interviews, first of all, I start writing them out before I even get them scheduled, because a lot of the time they'll ask 2 questions in advance, which I totally understand. And so I kind of start prepping, and I'll go on IMDb Pro, which is like the greatest invention. I'm going to cut this out because I don't want people to start stealing it. But you can find contact information for like everybody on IMDb Pro.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest, and then I start looking at what they were in, and then I look at their major characters if I didn't already know, and I watch a lot of, I listen to a lot of their previous interviews so I don't ask the same generic questions, and just all sorts of different things. And when I'm driving to and from places, I'll throw on YouTube video. I'm not watching a YouTube video. I'm just listening to the audio. I'm putting that out there. I'm being very safe.
Yeah. When you're driving. Good thing to point out. Yeah, I've done that as well. Mm-hmm. And
it's just so interesting. If I interview someone that I'm like, quote unquote, a super mega fan of, I like try and calm myself and make it not known that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've loved you for like 20 years. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. But it really just depends. I hate to say this. I've been pitched a lot of actors who I'm not necessarily familiar with to interview. And if I don't know who they are, it makes it really hard to process doing the interview with them, but I always try and do as much research as I can. And I always end up being a fan of them after the fact, because if I'm not, I wouldn't want to do the interview in the first place.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, and usually when you get to know people, even if it's just online first before talking to them, you do kind of become a fan.
It's funny, there was a show a couple years ago, or I guess it was last year. I'm not going to name names, but I thought just by the name of the show, oh, that's so stupid. Like, that's such a tchotchke premise. And I watched the pilot as a joke, and I was like, it's my favorite show on TV right now. It's so crazy. Yeah, like, I love it. And I thought it was going to be a joke. I thought it was a dumb idea. Nope. It's a great show, and I love it.
That's interesting. Well, have you found when you interview people, you just learn something new about the person and just about either comic culture or life in general that you weren't expecting?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Every single day I get a new piece of information that I take with me.
I've found the same thing. I'm always fascinated. I mean, even when I ask questions about acting, which I've been an actor for a while, I learned so many new things. And then I just love people's stories about, like your story. You never expected to be doing this. You thought you were going to be doing social media and other business things. I thought I was going to be doing accounting. I never expected to be here. And then some of the people I've interviewed, they never thought they were going to be doing certain things and ended up doing voice acting or directing. It's fascinating to hear people's stories and how they got to be where they are now.
So, when are you going to interview me on your show?
When you end up at a convention, so I can get your face on camera. I haven't done any. I know a lot of YouTubers do that, where they just do a phone interview and show a picture. I haven't done one of those yet. So when are you going to show up at a convention where we are at the same place?
If you come to a West Coast convention, we can get it done. But I try not to venture too far out for cons because gas money's expensive and flights are expensive.
And you're busy doing your own interviews.
Exactly. So, do you have any cool interviews coming up that you can tell us about?
Oh, goodness. That's one of the things. You asked me what I was doing today. This is before the interview started, but I was working on an interview. Wow, do I reveal? I've got Usually it's interesting. I feel like I'm week to week figuring out if I can get an interview done by Friday. Right now I've got about 12 interviews recorded, and so I'm getting them out to editors. I don't edit myself. I have wonderful editors who help me. So I am working to get those interviews out. So I've got people who are on Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, My Hero Academia, like a little bit of everything. I've got a lot of animes covered. I got lucky. There was Dallas Comic Show here, and then Anime Dallas, and there's also My Hero Academia convention. Not sure the exact name, but I know it's coming up in January, and so I'm going to try to hit that as well and get interviews. So yeah, I've got some good ones coming up.
It's so funny that you mentioned you have like 12 in the bucket. A couple months ago, I had like, gosh, it was something like 40 backed up, and I was only doing one show a week. And so we actually had to start a second show. So now we do 2 a week, 2 episodes a week, and we do like 2 or 3 per episode. So I was so backed up that I was going to be like through February if I was only doing one show a week. And I was like, I've got to get this out. And now I'm only like 2 or 3 weeks behind, and I have like 7 in the can.
That's an amazing problem that you had. That you had so many that you had to start doing several a week and several in one episode.
Yeah, I also have my own editor who edits all these things for me and makes me sound like a beautiful human being. So shout out to all of our editors and producers for me.
Shout out to editors. Yes, oh my goodness. And then I used to do everything myself, like besides editing, I would shoot and record sound and what little lighting I had. And now recently I've had a videographer and a couple of videographers and people who have helped me, and they've volunteered their time. It's amazing. So it's nice to have help, like people who know what they're doing. I'm figuring out the technical side.
Yeah, I'll leave the technical side to everybody else, but like scheduling and everything, I'm going to handle that myself, because I know if I hired someone to do scheduling for me, I would get a phone call at 1 a.m. Hey, I'm ready for the interview. And I'm like, what is going on?
Because you are not ready.
No, I interviewed someone in Denmark, David Bateson, who was in the Hitman game series, and he's like 9 hours ahead of us, so we had to schedule when it was going to be, because it was going to be really late for him, or really late for me, or really early for me, or etc. But we got it worked out. I think it ended up being like 9 p.m. his time and like noon our time, and it was a weird thing.
Wow.
But I'm glad that I was the one who scheduled that, because that would have been a hard one. You can find Elise's channel by searching Anime Adventures on YouTube and all other social media platforms.
Okay, what other hard questions? Now I am going to turn it around on you. What other questions do you have for me?
All right, we just have a couple fun ones here at the end. And so you have an unfair advantage having listened to a lot of my interviews, so you're probably going to know a lot of these, which is, of course, you would prep for doing an interview. Unfair. It's late Saturday night. What will we catch Elise Baughman watching on TV?
Well, so we've been having movie nights recently, because I do binge watch on Netflix, but we've been doing movie nights. And so recently we watched the original Star Wars. I also am a sucker for a good rom-com, so give me a good cheesy romantic comedy and I'm happy. And then we've watched some animated films recently, so a little bit of everything and kind of all over the place.
What's the last animated film that you watched?
We went to the theater and saw Frozen 2.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet. Getting to the theater is like the hardest thing in the world for me.
It is pretty hard, yes. I don't go often. I usually watch movies at home, but I had to go see that one in the theater.
Yeah, I'll be going to Star Wars in like 2 weeks, but that'll be the first time I've been to the theater since like When did Incredibles 2 come out? Whenever Incredibles 2 came out was the last time I was at the theater.
Really? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think
June or something. I don't know.
June? Was it? Oh, okay. Because I will say the last time I was at the theater was Mockingjay. What is that? Gosh, years
Hunger
ago.
Games?
And now I forget. Hunger Games, Mockingjay. What was that, like 3 years ago? So it was a long time ago. Terrible,
I think it was like 6 years ago.
No way. Couldn't have been.
Google.
Terrible.
I'm right in front of my laptop. So.
What does Google tell us?
November 21st, 2014. 5 years.
Surely I've seen. I think I saw Bad Moms. So surely I've been to the theater more than that. See, here's another question I'm going to have to ponder after we get off the phone. He's given me stuff to think about after our phone conversation.
That's the thing about a great interview. If it sticks with you after the fact, you did your job right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have.
So, would Goku ever let Pan beat him in a fight?
Well, he wouldn't let her, but she might.
If you could interview anyone in the world, anime related or not, who would it be?
Oh, my goodness. Anyone in the world? I really have no idea. This is going to be like a 3-hour interview while I sit and make my list in Excel. Back to the accounting. I do everything in Excel. I'd have to make a list and narrow it down and come up with somebody. Wow.
So,
I don't know.
Excel is my worst thing. It's my Achilles heel.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
is it really? Oh, I love it. I could help you. I do everything in Excel. And I got so busted. So ComiCulture, the All Dragon Ball convention.
Yeah.
I was one of the hosts with Geekdom 101 last year, so I moderated a few panels. And so I had put notes in an Excel spreadsheet. So I got to the panel with Damian Clark and Sunny Strait. And so I was hiding my nerdy little spreadsheet that was color-coded behind the podium because I had some notes and some questions that I wanted to make sure to ask Damian and Sunny. Well, of course, they call me out on it. And Damian holds it up and he's like, oh, my goodness, she's such a nerd. She color-coded her spreadsheet with questions for us. Look at this. Like, okay, I totally got busted. Yes, it's true. I have it all in Excel.
Also, shout out to Geekdom 101, the source for Dragon Ball in our community. I don't believe anything I hear until I hear from Geekdom.
Oh, I love his videos. Oh, and it was so great. I loved that we got to host together because we have become friends, and he's such a great guy.
Yeah.
A huge shout out to Geekdom 101.
Danny, Geekdom, Big D,
Danny,
Emperor D, you're awesome.
You're
his
awesome.
channel as well.
For sure. Yes, I watch his videos. And I've watched his videos like when I was there are times where I'll watch him on Dragon Ball GT to hear what he has to say, or when I'm preparing for something and want additional information, I will watch his videos. So he's a great source.
Okay, final question. You probably already know what it is. So what's my final question for you?
Does pineapple belong on pizza? It does not. So we can be friends, and that was my answer no matter what. I'm not just giving you the answer so we can be friends. I do not believe pineapple belongs on pizza.
See, that's the test to figure out if she actually does listen to my interviews, because she even knows that I would say, oh yeah, we can still be friends afterwards.
Yes. And that you save that until the end so you don't have to hang up on people at the beginning of the interview if they say that pineapple should be on pizza.
Oh my gosh, I have to change up my whole process now. I'm not going to let anyone watch my interviews beforehand from now on. I'm just going to hide them all until after the interview.
No, they will find you, or maybe they won't listen. Maybe they'll listen to the beginning or something.
Okay. I'll edit out the end each
most
time.
people chop off the ends. But people are pretty opinionated about that. I only heard one who was like, I'm not sure. It took him a while to answer. So here's my question to you. What belongs on pizza?
Cheese and pepperoni. And that's it.
Oh, that's it. Oh, okay. We can't be friends.
No, that's kind of a loaded question. It depends on where I'm at. If I go to like Mod or something, I'll get like grilled chicken and barbecue sauce and feta. But if I'm going to like Domino's, it's just the classic cheese and pepperoni.
Yeah, that's fair.
She can't turn this around on me, folks. She's done it like 4 times, and it's not fair.
Oops. I can't help it.
This was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for being here. I know we went a little bit over on time, but I'm not going to edit any of it. I'm just going to let it go as is. I mean, I'll edit out that one part about my high school diploma, but that's for my own sanity.
No, this was so much fun. I loved it. Thank you so much. I really did enjoy it.